Okay, Ashreinu Yidin, Ashreinu. You know, something new is happening in London, you know? Something new is happening. And when you push and push and push and push and you don't give up, and you try and you try, and you cry and you try, and you suffer, and you don't give up, Hashem opens gates. And for those who are part of the Lukuturan chabura in the morning, you really know what I mean, because what's going on is not to be believed. And those who are following also are with us. But just in general, like it's been a pretty long 2.5 years, you know, for myself, for my wife, for our Indian, for our ASEC, you know, coming back every single Thursday night and trying to like sort of get across what I'm trying to do, and it's difficult because it's not like an elevator pitch in 20 seconds. It's a whole different way of life. It's a whole different way of thinking, of learning. And I don't know if you feel the same way. It makes it easier now that like we've sort of shifted our Thursday night for the 5th time, but this is a step up for sure. I feel that there's something different happening with our chabura. There's something different. All the chaburas, the learning, the multiple chaburas throughout the week, chabura who are feeling what I always wanted is a community, you know, a group of Yidden, that none of us should feel lonely or strange or weird. Or this is what we're about. We're about Avodas Hashem. And we're about something that has nothing to do with outside. You can dress the way you like. You can identify with whatever community and daven in whatever shul and do your thing. You know, it was never about that. It was just about the neshama. And I just want to express like tremendous gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for sending very good shlichim, very, very good shlichim, you know, recently. And those who have been with us the whole time and really everybody who's contributed and will Be'ez Hashem continue to contribute. We have to do this thing. We have to do this thing. We have to bring this to people. And it's happening. And like I always telling Aiden, you know, me and him are on about this all the time, and I'm telling him it's just the beginning. Once this light starts to shine, people start to wake up, you know, it's Gula times. So what a privilege to be with you. What a privilege to have gotten to know you, to be getting to know you. And I feel like it's a new phase, a new stage in this whole little adventure. So that's the first thing. I just want to express gratitude to each and every one of you for being a part of it. The new faces, the old faces, the ones who have been with us, Mamish, Ashreinu. Yeah, Salmi.
No, Stam, I wanted to, can I use that line? You said that we're not weird anymore. Can I use it to my wife? I said, that's it, I'm not weird anymore.
If she comes Monday night, she won't be weird anymore either. Okay, Ashreinu. Not that she's weird, Chas v'shalom, but Monday night's for the woman.
I'm not weird.
All right, let's jump in. Ashreinu Mantov Chalkeinu. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos. So, we actually began this teaching last week, and we got through very little of it. And then we're going to try to push a little bit forward. You're feeling very hot in here?
A few weeks ago. Started was
what am I saying? A few weeks ago. I thought you were going like this.
No.
It was a few months ago.
Yeah.
A few months ago. I'm sorry. I said a few weeks ago because I looked on YouTube to see what the last thing we did was, and it was like, so that was the last year. But it was
where was I last week? It was definitely last week.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, this was
like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Fine. Okay. So let's start again from the beginning. His Shabbos Kodesh. He says, Rav Kluger, this is a flickering of the Shabbos of the future. Now we're going to understand how Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos ha'osek b'hisnartutus haShabbos shel Asid Lavai, that is a flickering, like we learned not last week or last time, but in the previous chapter, right? We learned about Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbos. It's a reflection of the great Shabbos to come, when the whole world of physicality and the world of concealment will be resting, and all that will be is the presence of Hashem. Me'ir uba b'chol Shabbos u'Shabbos gam b'zman hazeh, and it's shining even in our times. Ki ikar Shabbos hu emunah me Hashem yisbarach, because Shabbos is all about emunah and Hashem. Because of Ramban, like the Ramban writes, me'ein ha'arash and iskadol la'asid lavai. It's a reflection of the light that's going to be revealed la'asid lavai, when there will be no work, there will be no malacha. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing us into that realm technologically. Just watching this interview, somebody said, it's a clip earlier, he was talking about AI and the whole battle between China and America and England, and everybody's racing to produce enough electricity. Like, you know, he was basically speaking about the incumbent president and his term. Like, everything's going to go down in the next 4 years. Like, This is it. These next couple of years, the world is going to change, or could potentially change in ways that we can't even dream of. These are not regular times. Not beruchnius, not begashmius. But Shabbos is a taste of that time where there's nothing else to do but just chill and sit with family and friends and connect and build relationships and learn and daven and meditate and think about the essence of life and why we're here. Kashatia emuna brura, when emuna will be absolutely clear, v'hakol yavinu, and every single person will understand. Bechol prat. I said last time also it should be bechlal. Bechlal uprat or bechol, and the vav should be there. Prat. There's a mistake here, right? Amen. Bechol prat ma'aseh bereshis. Every single detail of the creation. Echakol ha'yavashkacha gedola. Everything is literally guided by Hashem, who is real. And that's why we make reference in the Mizmor that's speaking about Yom Shel Shabbos, which the Gemara tells us is a reference to the Shabbos La'asad Lavai, that each and every one of our Shabbosim coming up now tomorrow night is a little bit of a glimmer of a reflection of that time. Magadlu Masecha Hashem. We say, how great are Hashem's ways. Thanks for coming, Pinchas. It's great to see you. Magadlu Masecha Hashem. Ma'oid Amku Machshaveisecha Hashem. Your wisdom is so deep. Your thoughts, lahagid ki yashar Hashem. We say the end of the parak over there, the kapitel lahagid, in order to tell and to say over ki yashar Hashem tsuri v'lo. Hashem is my rock. Everything's okay. V'hasaga zu misgales kasher ba Shabbos. This hasaga, this revelation is revealed when Shabbos comes in. Sha'azroya ha'yehudi, because on Shabbos, if a person is conscious, the Jew sees Eichkol Masha Chashav B'Maisachal Ha'Imeniflois Hashkacha Ha'Eliyona. Every single thing, whatever he thought, whatever he did, whatever he said, the whole Maisa of the weekday, with everything that occurred, everything that happened, and so much happens to us today more than ever in the span of a week because life is so fast-paced. Shabbos is supposed to be a time where we reflect. It's a time to reflect. It's a time to look back. We mentioned in earlier shiurim that the Gemara tells us, the Medrash tells us rather, that la'asad lavai, all of the different karbanis are going to be betelin, are going to be absolutely nullified, like Rabbi Nachman says in Torah Beis, chutz mikarbon toida. The only thing that's left is just gratitude. What is gratitude? Gratitude is the energy of reflection. A person reflects. A person's grateful for something, right? Something that happens. Kishiyotzim tzara, right? And a person takes a step back and they look at what was. And that's all that there is la'asad lavai. In Olam Hazeh, as we experience life in the present, so it's all about bakasha. We're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu about the things that we need. La'asad lavai is just an energy of reflection. We're turning around and we're looking back. And this is what Shabbos is supposed to be. You turn around and you look back. And part of the reason that we have a hard time recognizing this as we're going through life, as we go through it, is because we're just going too fast. We're going too fast. Life is rushed. Everything is rushed, and we're rushing from one place to the next, and parnasa, and there's stuff to take care of, and everybody has their things that are getting in the way of the capacity to just really pause, to really, really pause, and just reflect on like mamish life, life itself, not the other stuff that like once I'm alive, so now I need money, and now I need to make a parnasa, and now I need this, and now I have a mouse running around my dining room, and now not saying any, mentioning any names, and everybody has different things that they need to take care of. So then all of a sudden you can get lost. And I had this idea. I must have said this in the past in this series. I must have, because one of my favorite Shabbos ideas, and I think it's a real Torah. I think it's MS. I think. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us, Gemara in two places, in Tainus also, but the Gemara in Shabbos follows all the way through. The Gemara in Shabbos says that if a person takes large steps, takes large steps, it takes away 1/500th of your eyesight. So Gemara walks with big steps, 500th of your eyesight is taken away. On that Gemara, and that's where the Gemara ends in Tainus. Taisus asks, very obvious question, he says, what are you talking about? We've seen people take 500 big steps and they're not blind, right? This is not true, right? Meaning if 1/500th is taken away every big step, so then 500 steps should make a person blind. Taisus has two answers. Very amazing Taisus over there, like Daning. Actually, interestingly enough, the second answer of Taisus is the bitui, is the expression that we find in different contexts in the Torah of kol haschalas kashas. It's only the first step that takes away a 500th. Every subsequent step takes away a 500th of that. And then it gets less and less and less and less, and so it's very indiscernible, which we don't usually mean kol haschalas kashas, huh? Yeah, kol haschalas, what's going on? Everything's okay? Yeah. That kol haschalas kashas doesn't usually mean in a literal, pragmatic sense. Like that first step that you take, it means the beginnings are hard. Right? But Tosfos applies that in a very literal way to this. And he says, Kol haschalas kashas, like every new beginning is difficult until the first step that you take. Thanks so much for joining us. All right, so the first step you take is going to take away 500. Okay. The Gemara in Shabbos continues. And the Gemara in Shabbos says that when does the person who's taken big steps, that they lost a little bit of their eyesight, when does that eyesight return? What's the tikkun? What's the rectification for that? Shabbos, when? Kiddush. The Gemara says, Kiddusha Devei Shimsha. Kiddush on Friday night. Ad kan HaGemara. It's a strange thing. We know that Kabbalistically it's a very, very big inyan, that a person should try if they can when they're making Kiddush. It's true for every bracha, really, because we're supposed to look at what we're going to eat right before we make the bracha. And that's because a bracha is not just liturgy, like it's not just something that God needs you to say. A bracha is supposed to be an experience. It's supposed to be an experience. It's an exercise in mindfulness, a bracha. Otherwise we're just shoving food in our face. But you stop and you make a bracha and you're looking at the food. It transforms the whole experience. You're able to recognize, I was eating broccoli the other night for dinner. My wife made broccoli, and she noticed that I was like looking. She's like, is everything okay? I said, yeah. It's just like, did you ever look at a piece of broccoli? It's an incredible thing. It's like a mini tree with all these different pieces and strands. It's incredibly intricate. It's detailed. It's not like, it's an amazing thing. A piece of broccoli is an amazing thing. We don't usually think about it, but it caught my eye as I'm putting it in my mouth. Stop. Wow. Mindful eating, right? So it's true about every food, but specifically there's a big, big tikkun. Friday night, when a person's making Kiddush, you look inside the Kiddush cup. And when there's a connection between your eyesight, which is a spiritual thing, and the wine, which is a spiritual thing, because everything is ruchnius, right? It's just code on the back end, and in the front end it looks like this world. Everything is code. When a human being's eyesight looks at the wine, there's a yichud, what's called chachma and malchus. I get into the whole thing now. It's the bechina of kulam bechachma asisa. God, you created everything physical with your chachma, with your intellect. And we recognize there's wisdom here. We approach the world with eyes that are open. So what does that have to do with taking big steps? Because the beginning of the Gemara says a person takes big steps, you lose a portion of your eyesight, comes back during Kiddush. And I had the following, what I think is a very, very simple thought. And I think it might even be true. I was thinking, what does the Gemara really mean? A person loses their eyesight if they take big steps. Generally speaking, a person who takes big steps is rushing somewhere. They're rushing. They're trying to get somewhere quickly, otherwise they'd walk normally. They're taking big steps because they're trying to get to a certain location. And to me, when I read this Gemara, what the Gemara is telling me is that if you rush through life, you're going to miss things. There's something wrong with our eyes. Meaning, our eyesight with which we connect to this world is going to be lackluster. Because I'm walking through Hendon Park so I can get from here to there and it's a shortcut. But I'm taking big steps because I'm really intent on getting where I need to get. You know what I missed? Hendon Park, right? I missed Hendon Park. I missed the journey. I missed that experience. I wasn't present in it. And life passes by because we're so quick and we're rushing all the time. The Gemara tells us, you want a tikkun for that? What's the rectification for that? Says the Gemara, Shabbos Kodesh. Kiddusha Devei Shimsha. Friday night you come home, you put a pause on Kilu Kal Malachtacha Suya, all your work is done, all your exams, whatever a person's thinking about, dealing with, things that are complete, the not complete stuff we're working on. Come Shabbos, there's nothing. You put a big, huge pause button on life, and your eyesight comes back. Because when a family is sitting around the table and they're not all on their phones, they start to see each other. They're able to build a relationship. They're able to actually connect. So this is what I think maybe it means, the Gemara, is that our eyesight gets taken away, and then when does it come back? Shabbos, what a gift. Maybe 500 years ago they didn't really understand what a gift Shabbos was, because in a certain sense the whole week was Shabbos-dik, in as much as they, in as much as they had malacha during the week and they were working a lot harder in a certain sense than any of us work, maybe combined, from the standpoint of physical labor, right? I think somebody's ringing again. This is, okay, next time we'll have to set it up on the other side, but they didn't appreciate what Shabbos is. It's not so unlikely that there will come a time in this world where the only group of people that ever have a break from technology in any sense will be religious Jews, will be for music. Because otherwise technology gets so integrated into life that it's not even a thing. It's not, we can't even imagine living without it. And all of us also, we're part of our phone. Our phones are a part of us. We used to remember information. I don't remember information anymore. It's on my phone. It's, if I lose my phone, it's like literally a part of me is gone. Right? But Shabbos gives us this ability to literally pull back from Olam Hazeh and literally come back into nature. Mamish nature. Nature, nature, nature. I was having a whole conversation earlier. We had a Zoom call, me and another person with a fascinating Yid. I tried to get him to come here one time, actually. Who's on a journey, been on a journey, and he has a farm 20 minutes outside of Hendon, Bournemouth. He's a yoga teacher, gives yoga classes, and he has a huge sprawling farm with like a huge, it's called a yurt, I think, which is a very interesting word. And it's a So this was part of the conversation, seeing how we can integrate what we're doing with what he's doing. And he wants Mamish to teach people how to garden. He wants to teach people how to climb trees, like Mamish, to get back to nature. He says we become so removed from ourselves and from what it means to be human that he was saying, he's on his Jewish journey, but he said growing up, so he went to shul however many times a year. And he says, like, these rabbis are giving whole sermons, in a square room, talking about the Torah portion of the week from a pulpit with wood and all these, stone and pillars. He says our ancestors were talking about the Torah portion around the campfire. And he's dead right. Mamish this, in a certain sense. Like, this is how you teach. This is not just for a kumzitz. This is how they lived. Without the fluorescent lights in the background, because I have a physical camera that needs to take this video. Baruch Hashem, we get to send it out to other people. But that's really the way that it's done. And then we look at our Yiddishkeit and we're wondering, like, why is it not connecting? Because maybe the context isn't right. And maybe if we would go back to Hashem's world, we learned this morning from Rabbi Nachman and Shir Na'im, right, how amazing it was that Rabbi Nachman, after treating Moshe Rabbeinu, right, and the importance of a tzaddik, and then he spoke about Yiddishkeit, right? And he spoke about it, the soul and the soul's journey and the struggles and the tensions and the battle, and then immediately he turns to nature. He turns to Hashem's world. So I want to connect this Yid to the Torah of Rabbi Nachman, really, help him connect to it, because that's what Rabbi Nachman is all about. Remove yourself from this world. Go out into nature. This is what Shabbos is. Shabbos gives us back our eyesight, right? Yeah, please.
I'll just look at self. It's interesting that a lot of the leaders through Jewish history, particularly in Tanakh, are people who, prior to God choosing them for leadership, are people who spend their time out in nature, either as shepherds or like Moshe Rabbeinu, who goes to see the burnt, the snare or whatever.
Gorgeous.
I don't think it's coincidence.
So one of the Svarim says, not Ebron Era, Asurana, right? In this week's Parsha, the Degamach and Ephraim, if I'm not mistaken, I have to look it up inside, I didn't see it in a few years. I think the Degamach and Ephraim says that this is what it means to be a Jew. To be an we say, like a cute thing, an observant Jew, right? To be a person who's awake. Because if Moshe Rabbeinu was rushing through Hendon Park, the equivalent over there, to get somewhere else, he would never have noticed the burning bush, and the whole thing doesn't happen. Meaning, in order to hear the voice of God, you have to be awake. You have to be present, really, really present, really there. And then all of a sudden, God is speaking to you one way or another. But if we're rushing and we're frenetic and tapping things out with these busy thumbs the whole time, then chas v'shalom, we can miss things. We can miss really important things. So that's what Shabbos is. Let's go back inside. So he says, this is mamish the inyan of Shabbos. This is what Shabbos is, that it illuminates the whole world. To help a person realize there's nothing but God. There is nothing but Elokus. This is why I'm in this world. And everything that goes on in the world that's a wonder and nobody knows anything, and we talk and talk and talk and talk. We can't really know. You see this hostage deal, right, with so many heated opinions on either side, and of course everybody's wrong, and of course everybody's right. There's no good thing, and nobody knows what to do because it's a freak situation. What are you going to do? It's heartbreaking one way, it's heartbreaking the other way. Malasot, right? But you look and you see that ostensibly, if a deal goes through, and thousands of people who actually murdered Jews are being let out for innocent hostages, and they're running around Gaza with victory signs and Hashem Yishmar Aleinu, right? So what's going on in this world? This is not how it's supposed to end. Everybody's quoting this nevuah and that nevuah, and all the people who are foretelling all the different things inevitably, because we were warned already against doing this, making actual accurate calculations about what's going to happen. Didn't they get the memo? What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to help us do is to humble us. Not that we should think we know, but to teach us, mamish, that we don't know. And even though we don't know, it's not my world. It's not my world. It's not our world. Not to control and not even to understand. Ani yodea klum, v'pachot miklum. My job is to recognize there's a captain. We do my ishtadlus, try as best as I can with humility of knowing I'm just a fragile person. So when a person looks around and he sees that all the wicked, they're flourishing. But to such a person knows that it's nothing. This is Hashem's world. He says a foolish person doesn't understand this. It doesn't mean like an idiot, like a person who's actually, a shaita, a fool. You could be the biggest professor, you could be the biggest political analyst, you could be the biggest pollster, and the biggest everything. It's a joke. Mamish, it's a joke how little we know, how fragile we are. All of a sudden a supply chain gets interrupted, and all of a sudden going back to nature, we wouldn't survive for, I want to say, we're so reliant on like plastic and supermarket. We don't like to think about these things, but we should probably think about these things, because we're not living the way that humans lived for the overwhelming majority of human history. We're so reliant, and we've built structures of brick and mortar, and like I said, supply chains and electricity and plumbing and all these things that we so rely on that we don't like to think about. But it's all so fragile. It's all so fragile. A wildfire, 2-3 days, some silly decisions, whatever's going on, and that's it. Hashem Yishmar Aleinu. Tens of thousands of homes. Life is so precious. Life is so fragile and so precious. But with all of our chachma, we just miss it. So we have to recognize ka'ayin ve'efes mamish. It's just a privilege to be here. It's just a privilege to be on this planet. It's a privilege to be part of Hashem's story. It's not my story, it's His story. History, right? His story. Sometimes a person gets older in life, and a little bit he starts getting signs of getting older, which I'm not going to mention in present company. Chas v'shalom, anybody should feel they're getting older. Everybody's very young. But signs of old age, like my humble self, that I'm balding, Baruch Hashem. Zikna kavtza alav. After all the challenges and difficulties of life. And he looks around. And he looks back and he says, okay, Tachlis, I've been struggling and suffering and trying to do this Judaism thing and, not working on Shabbos and taking a few hours out of my day to pray and to learn. And I see that people who invested in the physical world, they benefited, they gained, they made more money, they had more pleasure, they're living more stable, with more stability. And right before he can see, and have chalishas hadas. He can feel, the wicked are prospering. Sometimes you can lose your faith in people. You can lose your faith in humanity, because you see that actually, even though the Gemara says 1,000,000 times "Ein chayti neschar," right? There's no person who does a sin and wins from that. Like, you can't gain. There ain't no, what is it? What's this old song? There ain't no rest for the wicked. There ain't no. Yeah, money don't grow on trees, right? Ain't no rest. Huh? That's a pasuk, but it's also a song. Ain't no rest for the wicked. It's a famous song, right? Money don't grow on trees. Anyway, so ain't no rest. Ein chayti neschar. That's what the Gemara says. But in actual real life, you look around and you see that sometimes it does look that way. Sometimes people who cheat other people, sometimes people who put other people down, they climb on their heads, Yertle the turtle, until he's on the top. Happens. You can become disillusioned not just from people in the community, or you can become disillusioned from people in your own family. You see different people choose different paths in life. Banav, chasanav, even children, chas v'shalom, sons-in-law, much more usual, right? But certainly not children, in-laws. And when a person feels this alienation, he stops believing that there's good in this world and that good is rewarded. He can fall into cynicism, into bitterness, into sadness. And then he could just give up on the whole thing and say, forget it. There's no God. And the whole thing's for naught, for nothing. But the whole heart is always filled with regret. And all the time a person is challenged with new challenges. What's God doing to me? All of a sudden I'm an old person now. I spent my whole life davening and learning, and now I look back on life and I'm not so sure, chas v'shalom, whether this whole thing was for real. And out of despair, out of giving up, and out of this incredible disappointment, frustration, things that a person really worked long and hard on, he can just let go. So David HaMelech is warning us about this, and he says, guys, listen up. Emunah is not the way you think Emunah is. Emunah isn't when things make sense. Emunah doesn't either mean that everything will be all right. It's fake. It's false. Rabbi Nachman warns against this. Al tiftach belasatan, obviously, everything can be flipped around. Rabbi Nachman says, those people who say God would certainly never do that to us, and this would certainly never happen, he says, what are these, stupid? They're blind? Look at Jewish history. What are you talking about? A Holocaust can't happen? It happened. So what? Emunah doesn't mean that everything will be okay from the standpoint of what we think okay means. Emunah means that whatever happens is okay. That on some level, we humble ourselves enough to know that we don't know, and that there's some kind of grand narrative master plan that our human brains can't even think or conceive of a way of whatever it is that we're challenged by being woven into whatever meta-narrative, and we say it will still not be enough, because how are you going to explain the 6 million? I don't care what answer you gave. There's pain, and that pain ain't going away, right? Etc. Fine. That's all the while that we're still in this human form. But if we accept that we know so little, I was trying to explain to my Hasmo boys this morning, that we're not people, we ruin it because we grow up as people. It's a terrible thing. It's so unfortunate that that's all I've ever been as a person. But we're neshamas in a body. We're wearing this. I'm wearing this. We're like angelic beings, even higher than angels, that are put down to wear this form, which we get used to, and so we think it's normal. And we're in this world for a mission for a few years. Hashem should help us live long and happy. At whatever point in history we're down, for whatever tikkun we need to do, and we just settle into it, and we don't question it, and we don't wonder about it, and we're not shaken by the very fact of just existing. Because we're rushing all the time. 6 days of the week, sheishis me'achal. Till you come to Shabbos. Shabbos is Emunah. Shabbos Emunah means that one day, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to take this body off. I can take off a jacket. I hang it up after a long day. I go to bed. One day, we're going to take this body off. And we don't even know what that is, but I promise you, that's a fact. Right? I'm sorry to break it to everybody. You don't get out of this place alive. No one gets out of here alive. Death is mamish real, it's a real thing. It's a real thing, it's a fact. Now, it's not so pleasant to speak about these things. It's very heavy. People don't like to talk about these things. Why not, though? The only trouble that I have talking about these things is if I'm so much focused on this worldliness that it scares me if I think about anything else. But if I don't care about this world at all, and our whole focus is this mission that we were sent here for, so then it's the most gorgeous fact ever. It's a fact of this experience that we're having. We're on a little bit of a mission here. What's the mission? Let's figure it out. Who's the enemy? Let's figure it out. What weapons do we have? Let's figure it out. Where's the front line? We'll drive you there. This is what it means to be a Jew. This is what it means to be a Jew. It's not a culture, it's not a religion, it's not an ethnicity, it's not a, ritual or tradition. It's straight battle. It's a mission. It's a shlichus. You were sent here. We learned this morning from Rabbi Nachman. What are we going to say? L'shalchecha. Right? And he uses that word specifically. What are we going to say after we take this body off and we go back to that place and we stand in front of not a being that's trying to punish us and yell at us and be upset at us? It's much more than that. L'shalchecha means the one who sent you. You know what it means to be sent? To be sent means that we have something to do. We have something to accomplish. And each and every one of us in this room and every single Jew sitting in this entire city and in this entire country and in this entire globe has a unique mission that no other Jew has. These are not cliches. I'm not saying like a nice thing to empower people. It's a fact. Every single person around this table has their own unique neshama, their own unique entity that's inside of them with something that they can do that no one else can do. We were sent to this place. We were mamish sent. This is what Shabbos is all about. This is the emunah of Shabbos. Al zen nitzev David HaMelech. About this, David HaMelech was crying out. And he established these words, Va'omer b'mizmor zeh ish bar lo yeda, uchsil lo yavan esais. Most people don't recognize this. They go through life the whole time with their definitions and their experiences of what they think life is or isn't without pausing, without stopping to think. And it matters not what age you're at. A person could be a teenager, a person could be older. I was telling my boys today also, it's so crazy. The teenagers are trying to be adults and adults are trying to go back to teenagers. Meanwhile, when do you actually live, And the fact is you live wherever you're at that moment. To be a teenager is not sort of like a waiting room until you become an adult. It's a phase of life. There's a tikkun to be done there. Right? There's something that you can do at 16, 15, 17, whatever. Not in that order. I'm not that bad at math. Okay, I'm sorry. 14, 15, 16, just to prove it to you. 17. There's something you can do then that you'll never be able to do at any other point in your life. So a lot of times you have bachurim, like if they're in Hasmir, let's say, especially the later years, until I get to yeshiva. When I get to yeshiva, then and it's like, well, sure, there will be something else to do when you go, but right now in this minute, there's no waiting. A lot of times you speak to girls who are in shidduchim, single girls. They feel mamish. It's a crazy thing that like their life is on hold. Like it doesn't. It's ki'ilu. Their current experience does not matter until they find the shidduch. What a horrible mistake. What a miserable mistake. Without judgment, because we could understand what they're going through and how hard it is, etc. Every person with their own situation. But how much easier it would be if they had hashkafa to know that they're valuable without the stamp of the communal approval that you did the thing. It's ridiculous. What do we know, Everybody has their own journey, their own neshama. And I'm always, if I'm ever speaking to girls, to boys in that situation, just telling them, like, don't do this to yourself. Take on a project, do something, be effective, be productive. Like you're valuable as you, not as where you think you need to be. Ish bar lo yedach sila yavan esais dahainu shah seichel enoshi mugbal ve'ena maven es oimek hanagas Hashem Yisbarach. We can't understand. Look at the Yisrael Rabbeinu HaKadosh, like Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says in Chaim Aran, Ish bar lo yedach sila yavan esais she'inam yoidim uvinam inin zeh haksilim ha'bayara maza as Hashem. People don't understand what God does in the world. What don't they understand? That the wicked prosper. They don't realize that a Kadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing. And a Kadosh Baruch Hu knows that Hezbollah needs to attack so that we can go after them and take out the whole, we've seen, I mentioned this in the past over the last year and a half, we know so little. If anybody could have dreamed on October 7th, what would follow and the chain of reaction that would set off, and what things are positive, what things are negative, what things are recontextualized, what things are so painful that no amount of recontextualization could help, etc., 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 etc. But it calls for humility, that's all. A person's allowed to have an opinion. The Gemara says, Ein l'dayin ela ma'she'ein avrais. We can only judge things by what we see, and that's okay. But that it should be in the context of knowing that I don't actually know. Imagine that. Imagine if every heated political conversation began with that caveat, right? Imagine a debate. You have two people sitting and they're debating, and they begin, both of them, by humbly recognizing the fact that I'm just human, I'm fragile, this is what I think, but I don't actually know, and I'm not going to hate you for what you think, and you're not going to hate me for what I think, because neither of us really think what we think, we just think we think what we think. But we don't actually think it. Because we're just people. Beautiful, broken, fragile, exalted people, humans. So the Ksilei Yavan Hasais, a person doesn't understand. Why is God doing this in the world? Rabbi Nachman says, and we can't understand it, but God knows what he's doing. And there's no folly in God. Everything's going precisely according to plan. And when things are not going our way, like I like to say, they're going his way. Going his way. We can't really understand this with our brains. Shekain Yehudi Amamin, a Jew who believes, Kodesh Baruch Hu, your plan is so deep. Such a person lives with Koheles, realizing everything is vain. I once said an interesting thing. I did a post about it years ago. That counterintuitively, the people who took this world less seriously ended up taking it much more seriously than those who took it very seriously to begin with. Meaning, people who live in Olam Hazeh as if this is all there is, they take the world pretty seriously because this is all there is. Imagine if you believed, which a huge population of human beings believed, that this is it. After this, your neshama doesn't go up. There's no neshama. You flick a switch and that's it. Your consciousness is dead forever and ever and ever and ever, and it was like you didn't exist. Chas v'shalom. From that perspective, this world is a very real thing, because this is it. But the tzaddikim who lived life with the realization that be'emes hakol havel, that this is not it, actually took this little experience in Olam Hazeh much more seriously than a person who actually thought that this is it. Why? Because if I don't believe that this is actually it, that means that there's a bigger context, so that means that I was sent here. And that means that there's a mission to do, and that's really important to do. And so you can have both. You can have Hevel Avolam HaKol Havel, and at the same time actually be very, live with intention and with focus and with care and concern and investment. Both of those things can be true at once. Shekain Yehudi Amam and Shema'od Amku Machshavaisecha, a Jew who really believes that everything is so deep. Zoich Elahavin Shebe'emes Hakol Havel, he lives in such a way that everything that people think matters, it's vain, it's vanity. U'maschal Hamin Be'emunah Shleima, he begins to really believe in Hashem. U'vatzadikim, and in righteous people who are connected. Va'oizev Asaseichel Anoisha Legamre, he lets go. He lets go of a need to understand everything, to put things into boxes, to pretend like he has it all figured out. And a person strengthens that simplicity. Everything that we spoke about the last 42 minutes, we're going to wrap it up in a few. This is what Shabbos is. Shabbos isn't rules. Shabbos isn't restrictions. Shabbos isn't just a thing we do. Shabbos isn't something we feel guilty about not doing. Shabbos is this. It's an invitation, it's a portal, it's a door that opens up out of the frenetic rush of the week where our eyesight gets lost. Shabbos means that I'm able to walk in. I'm able to walk into that place of reconnecting with the essence of what it means to be alive in the first place. And from that standpoint, allow all the priorities to rearrange. What matters to me? What's valuable to me? How do I want to spend my time? Who am I? What is this? Where are we? Who is Hashem? What's going on in the world? What's the point? What's the tachlis? What's the actual purpose of us being here in the first place? This is the whole holiness of Shabbos. Yom Zeh, says Rav Kluger, Shabbos is a charging station. It's a petrol station. Yom Emunah. You get refilled with this energy of faith, with this confidence, with this mission statement, with this clarity. I know what I'm here for. My Jewishness is not just a facet of my identity. It's the essence of my life. It's why I'm alive. It's why I'm here. And then you get charged up, and Shabbos becomes Mekar HaBracha, right? It becomes the energy source for the whole week. You march out of Shabbos, Malava Malka, escort Shabbos away, and that's it. You're lit. You know, it's like can't think of a good mashal now, but there's some kind of, maybe with cars racing, where they pull the vehicle, pull it very quickly, and then sort of let go, and it goes by itself. So I can't think of something. Maybe a glider. Maybe a glider. Yeah.
The toy cars.
The toy cars also. Yeah, but there's something practical. There's something like I've seen.
Momentum.
Huh?
Momentum.
Yeah, momentum. Yeah, but there's another vehicle that pulls this thing along, gets it to a certain. I think gliders work this way, don't they? Aren't gliders pulled along by something, and then they're anyway? You understand what I mean? That's what Shabbos is. It pulls us along, it catches us up to speed, literally, and then boom, it releases us into another 6 days of the week. And the whole time of the 6 days of the week, every day we're saying Hayoim Yoim, Echad L'Shabbos, Sheni L'Shabbos, Shlishi L'Shabbos. Every time I'm going back to Shabbos because I want another infusion of that energy, of that fire, of that conviction, of that confidence. It's the one thing the world is missing today, is confidence. People don't have confidence. They pretend. But they don't really live with confidence. To live with a mission, what a thing to do. What a thing to have a mission, to have something to give over to your family, your children, to be able to be a person that exudes something, like stands for something. People see you, they know what you represent something. This is what Am Yisrael collectively is supposed to be, and the only way that nationally we can do this is if each and every individual feels this inside of them. And the way that we do that is by taking Judaism out of this small, sort of traditional establishment, institutional context. We free it, and we bring it back to what it was always supposed to be, which is a vision for humanity, which is a prayer for the world, which is a blessing, which is a mandate and a mission and a message. Yom Zeh Hu Yom Emunah. Uboy mi'idin al darchei Hashem Yisbarach. And on Shabbos, we're able to testify lahagid ki yashar havaya, yashar Hashem. God is straight. God knows what He's doing. This is His world. This is the greatest story ever told. And we're doing our little part. Suri, He's my rock. Rock is confidence, right? Rock is strong. You can rely on a rock. V'lo yavlo sabai. and there's nothing corrupted. There's nothing off, there's nothing wrong. We just don't have all the information yet. We just don't have all the information yet. Hashem should bless us to keep strong with the light of Shabbos until we make it to the great Shabbos to come, and to play our role to bring this light to the world, this eyesight to the world, this presence to the world, this connection to the world, this strength to the world, this joy to the world.
אני הבן ואתה האב שלי שכל כך אוהב אותי האב שלי מלך חי וקיים על כל נשימה שאני